Even though he might be older, unkempt, and grizzled, Thornton had ridden the river a time or two and seen the elephant in his day. He wasn't particularly famous, but in reality he was one of the fastest shooters west of the Mississippi. They were both Texas Rangers. Chapter 1. Red's life had started out precariously when the wagon train his family was traveling with was attacked by a band of hostile renegade Indians. Along with the rest of the train, his parents had been killed. But fortuitously, when the Indian attack started, the baby's mother had quickly wrapped him in a blanket and then stashed the infant in a patch of bramble bushes. How long that infant child remained in the bushes is anyone's guess, but luckily and soon enough an old prospector was walking along with his burro and her newborn foal when he heard the baby's cries and rescued him. The child was nursed with the donkey's milk, and not only survived, but thrived. There was nothing that could identify the baby's family in the remains of the wagon, and since the prospector had found the red-headed baby near the Red River, he simply decided to name the boy Red. For years thereafter the two traveled everywhere together through the Western Territories, and in spite of the fact that they shared no actual familial blood, the old man learned to love him as if he were truly his very own son, and he took joy in watching him grow up. The prospector taught the boy to fish and trap and how to read sign. Red memorized every rock and gully of the West through which they roamed, a skill he was encouraged to develop by that old prospector. The old man also showed him how to track and hunt, and for many years the pair had very little to complain about. It was a good life for Red and the old prospector, except for an occasional encounter with hostile Indians, the periods of drought, and times when food of any kind was scarce. Even so, the boy grew up strong and happy. He knew of no other way of living, nor did he wish for one. Life, however, like a wild river, has a nasty way of changing course when you least expect it. When Red was 14 years old, he and the old man traveled to a spot the prospector had once heard about near the southern foothills of the Rocky Mountains. After setting up camp near a small cave, the old man began to make a fire while the boy looked around for some kindling wood. Red climbed up an overhanging cliff and was right above the cave entrance when his foot suddenly tripped on a loose rock, which in turn caused a minor rock slide. Looking down to check on the old man, Red was startled to see him sprawled face down in the dirt. Fearing the worst, the boy rushed quickly to his side. When Red turned the old prospector over, he was surprised and relieved to find that not only was the man alive, but he was laughing. What confused the boy was that the old man had an expression on his face that suggested what could only be described as a state of pure, unbridled ecstasy. The rock slide had opened a crack at the base of the cliff, revealing what prospectors call a glory hole. In other words, it was a rocky pocket filled with nuggets of pure gold. It wasn't a vein that ran very deep or very far, but the gold found there in that hole was enough to set the old wanderer and his adopted son up for the rest of their lives. It took the pair almost 2 weeks to clean out that pocket before they finally headed back to civilization. The old prospector had spent his whole life searching for such wealth, and now that it was right there in his hands, a sense of melancholy began to set in. "Something wrong?" the boy asked, puzzled. "You seem more quiet than usual." "Oh, it's nothing, Red. Just the ruminations of a tired old man." "What's there to ruminate about?" the boy asked. "Tell me, I want to know." The old man thought a good spell before answering. "Well, Red, it's like this. I done spent my whole life looking for just what we got in them bags. Now that I finally got it, I sort of feel—" The prospector stopped and stared off into the distance. "What?" the boy urged.